I was in a conference room in a meeting that started at 8, and the conference had been going a short time when we heard the first sound that sounded unusual, and we kind of looked at each other of what's that. A very few minutes after that, we heard the sound of what was definitely gunfire. People were yelling to close the doors, lock the doors. The conference room that I was in was behind some other doors. So someone in my office, and I don't know who, locked those outer doors, and then we all barricaded ourselves either in the interior conference room or in interior offices. And we were on the ground, sheltering in place for several minutes. A short time after that, and again, I wasn't looking at my watch, we heard a very loud gunshot very close by, and we looked up and we saw bullet holes in the wall to the conference room that we were in, about a foot down from the ceiling. We heard sporadic gunfire a little bit after that. The 9 o'clock in the timeline sounds about right.
So we're on the fourth floor. We're on the fourth floor, which is where I work at, and we hear 1, 2, 3 sounds. It sounds like somebody with a cap gun. It's not like really loud sounds because it wasn't very close to us. A couple minutes after that, you got people running by us telling everybody to get out of the building. So we didn't know if it was a drill at that point because we didn't see a shooter or even see anybody with a gun. Came back, and then the fire alarm and the overhead goes off. And then the fire alarm and the overhead goes off. And so at that point, that's the signal for everybody to get out of the building anyway. And so we evacuate the building. Like we would for any other fire drill or fire event. I ended up on the back side of building 197 between the boiler maintenance facility and our building, trying to get people in and out. Because it's not a fire, the gates to the base are now shut. They're always like that because the back of our building is not secured on the base. Because it's not a fire, the gates to the base are now shut. They're always like that because it's not a fire, the gates to the base are now shut. They're always like that because our building is not secured on the base. And so we ended up directing people down to the riverfront. They couldn't get out that way. We directed them the other way to come back over here by where some of the construction is going down off of M Street. And then at that point, there's another gentleman that came out from the back of the boiler building, was standing next to me, talking to me, heard 2 shots in the alleyway. He dropped in front of me, and then I took off after that. Got about 150 people out of the back of the alley. I was standing in the alley behind the building, and a gentleman approached me from the boiler shop behind me, was talking to me about what was going on in my building. He had mentioned there was a shooter in the building. Talking to me about what was going on in my building. He had mentioned there was a shooter in the building. I said I could not confirm that.
People were yelling to close the doors, lock the doors.
Said I could not confirm that. We had about a 1-minute conversation, and then we had 2 gunshots that went off near us. One hit him, he fell down, and then I ran from there after that. I saw him drop in front of me. He was shot in the head. I left at that point because I didn't know if the shooter was coming out of the building or if I was still in the area where he could shoot me as well. Ran behind the building, jumped a fence, and and it ended up the rest of the people and security folks further back away from the scene. I know one of my coworkers was shot because I got a text from my boss.
And most of the time, what we spent doing was we had our BlackBerries out and we spent our time texting each other, other people in the my colleagues in the building.
Because I got a text from my boss.
holes in the wall. And then at a little after 10, uniformed police officers came to our location.
We got a report on the 4th floor, a male with a shotgun, multiple shots fired, multiple people down.
You could hear gunfire because of the size of the building, difficult to pin down where the gunfire was coming from.
And members of a U.S. Capitol Police tactical team say they were preparing to enter the Navy Yard to help, but were ordered back by a superior.
I asked the Capitol Police Board to do an independent fact review.
September 18th, 2013. Our son, Aaron Alexis, has murdered 12 people and wounded several others. Profound and everlasting effect on the families of the victims. I don't know why he did what he did, and I'll never be able to ask him why. Aaron is now in a place where he can no longer do harm to anyone, and for that I am glad.